All right. So let's talk about how they're trying to use my past when I was a teenager and a child to assassinate my character today. They say that I was a drug dealer. They say I was a gangbanger. They say I got whatever. I got in trouble, and they're trying to use my past against me. But what they're not talking about is that I was 19 years old and before that. So to understand why I was the way I was at 19 and prior to that, we have to understand the way I grew up. So dog training is about experiences and what the dog associates to these experiences, right? Whether it's positive or negative influences dog's behavior. And human nature is not much different. What we experience in life dictates what our decision making is, right? If we're surrounded by all negative, it's almost guaranteed we're going to choose negative self-destructive behaviors. From the time I was born until I was 5 years old, I was raised by my mother. I don't know. My mother meant well. But my mother was addicted to drugs. We had a lot of drug dealers around. Growing up, I didn't grow up in, a nice home environment. At about 5 years old, I was taken away by foster care for the first time. I was put with this family. I don't remember their names, but they were really nice people. I lived with people for a few months, and I was thriving. It was one of my first experiences I can remember actually going to church. My Aunt Joanne would actually come pick me up from the foster home, who was actually my step-aunt, but she would pick me up from the foster home and she would take me to church. And then also the foster care people, they took us to church too. Well, my mom ended up getting custody of us back, and it was back to a similar environment. At about the age of 6 or 7, I can't remember the exact age, I was taken away again by CPS. So they put me with my grandma Ann and my grandfather Russ, my step-grandfather Russ. My grandma Ann, she took it. I'm sure she loved us. We were her grandkids. But my grandmother Ann, she was an alcoholic. I didn't get the nothing nurturing from that part of the relationship. But my step-grandfather Russ, he was a good man. We were not his biological grandkids. Me and one of my brothers, who's very close to age with me. But he was not our biological grandfather. But he treated us no different. We were white, he was black. There's all kinds of stories I could talk about growing up with him in the 80s and, coming out of stores. And it was crazy. It was crazy. But at the end of it, my grandpa Russ, he got me into baseball. I really that's why I love baseball so much today. Also, he got me into dogs a little bit. I can't remember the dogs' names. I was really young, but he had two dogs. One was a Rottweiler. I think the other one was a German Shepherd mix or something like that. But that's where my love of dogs was actually first created, was being with my grandpa Russ. I have an uncle who's very close to age of me. He's a few years old, about 8 years older than me, 9 years older than me, something like that. So I was a kid. He was a teenager. And that kind of influenced some decision-making skills. My uncle was young, so, he was cool. And so, I wanted to be cool like uncle, too. Anyways, the state steps in. The state decides that being with my step-grandfather, because he's not my biological grandfather, that I should go move with some other family members who are biologically related to me. This is the worst thing that they could have done. They put me in a very toxic environment. I'm not going to talk about what went on in that environment as far as full details, but it was toxic. I got to a point where it was like I had to get out of there. So I ran away from that environment. I ended up back into the ghetto. So here we are. I'm about 11 years old or something like that. At the age of 12, I was out in Richmond, and there was a drive-by shooting. Me and some other they were older than me, but they were young teenagers. We were out there selling drugs. Mind you, I didn't sell drugs to be cool. I didn't sell drugs because I wanted some new Jordans or some new shoes or whatever that was at the time. Sold drugs so I could eat, so I could have clothes, so I could have a place to sleep at this time. Law enforcement, to then to today, my views on law enforcement has totally changed. But at this time, you know, my interaction with law enforcement was very bad. There was never an understanding of why I was the way I was as a child. I got handcuffed at the age of 12. I was taken into an alley. Me and another black kid, we were taken into an alley, and we were beaten by 2 cops, and then unhandcuffed and left in that alley. So well, I don't condone that officer's behavior or anything like that. All the other officers, you know, they had a job to do, and it's just a job for them. Doesn't matter if you're a kid, doesn't matter if you're an adult. They don't care about circumstances. They just care about what you did wrong. So let's fast forward a little bit. We had this huge shooting that happened when I was 12 years old. Me and some other kids, and there were adults that, you know, shot whatever. It was adults. So now it's let's get a gun. Like, the only way I'm gonna survive out here is by having a gun. Again, it wasn't to be cool. It had nothing to do with the Second Amendment. It had to do with survival. I was 12 years old. I weighed about 95 pounds. There was no way physically in combat or anything else that I was competing with these people out there. So I did get a gun. At the age of 13, I think, I got into my first trouble. So 13, I'm put into a correctional facility. I finished that out, and then they put me into these group homes, criminal-type group homes, where I thrived off of violence. I lived a life of violence. You know, you didn't show emotions. Emotions was weakness. The only emotion we would show was anger. So I fought. We fast forward. There were some small positive influences that I think back on today that were in those group homes. I'm not going to name the certain people, but again, it was very minor. But it definitely planted a seed into who I became today. 18, 19 years old, you know, I get into trouble again. Again, you know, there was never a move away from this environment I was in. That's the only environment I understand. It's the only way of thinking I understand. So at 19, a bunch of stuff happened. I'm selling drugs. All this stuff happens. I end up, there was some shooting stuff that went on. I ended up getting in trouble for this stuff. We fast forward. I'm out of trouble. While I was in trouble for this stuff, it was like, you know, I'll think about it a little bit. You know, what do I want for my life? When this is all said and done, I have a second chance at life. What do I want in my life? I can't pinpoint the time or anything like that. But after I got out of trouble, you know, I started removing myself from the people that I associated with before, all this stuff. I didn't hang out with gangbangers no more. I didn't hang out with drug dealers no more. I started just separating away from that. I skipped the part about how the dog training thing first started, right? What got me into that. But I end up hooking up with this dude. We start training together and stuff like that. And I learned a decent amount in a short period of time, and working with him. I ended up working with someone else for a while, picking up, you know, stuff from them. Started NorCal Canine it wasn't called NorCal Canine then, but we never abandoned the original name either. But I had a very generic name at the time, not very creative with names. All my kids' middle names are Frank and Francine. I'm not very creative when it comes to names. So I started what would become NorCal Canine around 2006. My goal was to run in a business as honestly as possible, to give everybody exactly what they paid for. From my first client, who I still talk to this day, and hopefully she has really nice things to say about me when people ask. But from the first client to the most recent clients, I've always treated everybody fairly. I'm on my staff, the trainers that work for me, and my advancement. We'll talk about that later. The trainers that work for me, I have always treated them very fairly, but I was harsh. When clients call in and they're upset, I'm upset. There's clients who I've never met in my life, and I take it personal because my name is behind everything. But anyways, this is covering the fact of, them calling me a criminal or a drug dealer. They bring up the fact of what I did, 19 years old or whatever around that time, and prior to that. But they can't bring up no type of crimes from then. They can't bring up, they can try to assassinate my character with past stuff, or with people making things up or whatever. They can judge me based off all these tattoos. They could judge me because I don't give a damn what other people think about me. And that's to just be 100% honest. If someone doesn't like me, I don't lose sleep over it. If someone thinks I should do something differently and I don't think that, I'm not going to do it. I don't agree with people. Hold on real quick. I don't agree with people easily. If what they're saying is nonsense, I'll call it nonsense or I'll just walk away from it. A lot of people like to agree with other people. They like other people to feel that, to like them. Social media has created this. We talk about social media, right? Who's your biggest friends that you pay attention to? You pay attention to the people that are commenting and liking your posts the most, right? The people that send you bullshit text messages. The fun people, we'll call them the fun people, right? But your real friends, they got other things probably going on in their life. They're not all over your social media. They're not checking on you 24 hours a day. They have a life of their own. And this is where the hatred comes into place, right? When people are on social media and they're saying, my dog won't stop barking at the door. People are like, oh, get a squirt bottle and fill it up with vinegar or something like that. Squirt it in your dog's face. All right, talk about, hurting dogs. Spray vinegar in your eyes and see how you like it. And I don't, when I say I disagree with it, I don't put what they should do because every dog is different. Every situation is different. What's going to work for one dog will not work for another dog. But spraying your dog in the face with vinegar is not a fix. And I'll put that, I'll say, hey, contact a professional trainer. Contact someone who actually understands dogs. Don't take advice from the internet people. These internet people, you don't know what the background is. And maybe something that they're advising you to do may have worked on their dog. It doesn't mean it's going to work on your dog and be counterproductive to your dog. And as soon as you disagree with someone on the internet, they start looking at the tattoos or they look at whatever. And then they're, going off and on rants about that. Or they try to assassinate my character based off of that. So you got rescue people. There's many rescues. I a whole list. I have a whole list of rescues that I've worked with, that I've helped, that I have not charged to help, or I charged bare minimum to help them. Nothing that was worth what I was actually doing. When rescue people call me, they don't call me because they have the 9-week cute puppy who, is acting wild and stuff. They call me because they have dogs that are very, very dog aggressive or human aggressive. And we've helped many rescues fix these behaviors so they could rehome these dogs. I've had rescues who will be named in the future. There's going to be a big video I'm going to do in the future that's going to talk about these different rescues and what I've done for them, what I allowed them to do and take advantage of me, and then what's happening today and their silence today, or even them trying to jump on the bandwagon and assassinate me. And let's remember, I don't delete text messages. We're talking years and years of text messages, social media messages. It's all set. I don't get rid of nothing. But these same people, right, who took advantage of me, there's one, they asked us to help with this human aggressive dog that I had advised them to not take from the shelter. I told them it's not going to be an easy dog. It's not going to be an easy project. But they got the dog. And then they dropped the dog off to my ex-girlfriend, who was always trying to be helpful, I guess, to others. And I'm trying to be helpful to others too, but I knew this situation was not a good situation. But this dog is dropped off. and I was down in Southern California at the time. It finally, a year goes by. The dog is doing tremendously better. Just phenomenal. The dog went from trying to kill everybody this dog met to the dog actually playing ball and just, enjoying life. Try to get a hold of the rescue to, have them find prospective home for it. And the lady I was talking to, who is a very good person, she was the vice president of this rescue at the time. She messages the founder of the rescue. And the founder is like, no, that's Gary's dog. That's their dog now. That's their dog now. Okay, so we got no problem. We'll try to rehome the dog ourselves. I ended up finding a home over in Nevada. I think they were in Nevada City, I want to say. But it was somewhere over there. He was a retired canine handler, really interested in the dog, but he had just had an issue prior to the looking at this particular dog with a dog that he had gotten, and 2 months later, the dog had really bad hip dysplasia, and they had to put the dog down because of it. So we needed an OFA. If you don't know what an OFA is a hip x-ray. So I tell him, okay, I've been dealing with this dog, feeding this dog, doing everything with this dog for over a year. All I need from you guys is to cover the OFA. You guys get discounts at your vet. I don't get discounts at the vet. So you guys get discounts at the vet. We just need a hip x-ray, make sure that the dog doesn't have no just basic hip problems, hip dysplasia, or anything that could cause issues for this guy to not have a dog that he can love for the rest of the dog's life. They told the lady I talked to the other lady, and the other lady basically was like, that's his problem, and that they weren't going to deal with it. But I had told them not to get the dog. They went behind my back. They knew my ex, and they knew that, she would agree to do it. But the same lady now is online trying to bash me when they dropped off a highly aggressive dog to my ex behind my back after I had already told them that I would help them work with the dog if they got the dog. I told them not to get the dog, but if they did get the dog, I would help, but they're going to have somebody to keep the dog for them. Now this same lady is online and talking bad about me. That is one situation. That's one situation with that rescue. There was a lot of good ones, but there was a lot of dogs that these people literally dropped off to my ex. I think my ex kind of did it because I was out of town a lot. I was down in Southern California half the month. I was up here half the month, and she would agree to do things that I wasn't okay with. And they took high advantage of that. And never once did they pay for any of the dog's veterinary bills. Did they pay for any of the food? None of this. But anyways, the amateur trainers, right? These amateur trainers, again, I don't agree with their nonsense. I'm not big on social media. When I'm on social media, I'm posting pictures of my dogs, my kids, training that we're doing. I don't even follow other people and what they're doing. But we get a lot of people. They say, oh, well, you use negative reinforcement. And yes, we do use negative reinforcement. But we also use more positive reinforcement than we use on the negative reinforcement. It's called balanced training. We are the smartest species on the planet, humans, right? Who runs faster? Not who runs faster. Who goes faster, a human or a dog? A lot of people say the dog, but we got cars. We can take our slowest car, a Prius. I hate Priuses. A Prius. We take a Prius, right? A Prius will go further and faster than any land animal will. So we are the smartest species, yet we learn from positive and negative reinforcement. To this day, today you are still learning from positive and negative reinforcement. What stops you from speeding on the freeway? You will get in trouble. You will not be handed a hot dog. You won't be given a treat. You will get in trouble. Depending how fast you're going will depend on you get a ticket, you get your car impounded, or you may get arrested. All right. So we still have negative correction on us as the smartest species on this planet. Now, how do we expect dogs to learn any differently? But you get these positive reinforcement people. These people love to bash tools that are used, humane tools that are used in training of dogs. I don't respond. I don't argue with them on social media or anything like that. What I do is I invite them to come out. There's canine competitions that we participate in, that our clients can participate in, and we win in, and our clients win in. We invite them to come out, but they don't come out. So all they can do is assassinate my character. They can point at the tattoos. They can say, oh, he's a mean guy, or he's this, he's that, he's an asshole. And I'm far from an asshole, but I guess I can be an asshole at some times to some people. But these amateur trainers, because they want to say that only their way works. Well, there's so many different ways to do a single thing. And I don't ever go on and publicly and start bashing these positive people. And then I get the negative reinforcement people, right? These are the people who just beat dogs down. These are the people that, these positive reinforcement people try to act like who I am. I believe in confidence building 100%. I do not believe in tearing a dog down. When a dog is scared, never mind. We'll cover that on a video about training. They try to say that I beat dogs down or whatever. No, I don't. I build confidence in dogs. I do teach dogs that, no, this is not acceptable. And when they give us the acceptable behavior, they get rewarded heavily for that acceptable behavior. It's called behavior marking, and we're very big on that. But we definitely, in unacceptable behavior, we definitely correct it. But confidence building. If a dog is trying to bite me because a dog is afraid, I don't correct that. There's an easier way to fix this, and that is by building the dog's confidence, teaching the dog to not be afraid, not by using a pinch collar, not by using electronic collars, not by using any type of tool, but using good, positive interaction with the dog. I spend a lot of time working with the dogs, people that call us human aggressive, dog aggressive. Like, we're talking extremes here. Most of these clients, they resolve their issues. Because they put the time and the effort in. They understand this isn't just a snap of my finger and the dog is going to be trained, or my staff or whatever. Most of my staff. Come to find out, some of my staff wasn't as good as maybe we thought they were. With that said, I get the negative only people. These people, they say that, oh, what I do is wrong because I reward the dogs, and I play ball with dogs, by me letting the dog fetch a ball as a reward. That, oh, this is going to teach the dog to be some crazy psycho and want to kill other dogs or kill cats or chase babies. That's not the case. Ball drive is something that we've bred into our Labrador Retrievers. We've bred it into so many different types of working dogs for trainability, for reasons of trainability. But these same people... and I don't even give them the time. At least the positive reinforcement people, I'll kind of give them a little back and forth as far as inviting them out. The negative ones, I don't give them the time, because if they did come out, I know how I am. And I'm very fair with dogs. I don't hurt dogs. I love dogs. And I mean, there's so many, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients who will be making, public statements. I have a list of clients who are already ready to come forward right now. But these negative people, I couldn't surround myself with it. Because while I'm not an emotional person, I try to think with logic most of the time. If I saw someone truly hurting a dog, I would lose my mind over it. And I want you guys to keep that in mind. What the social media, 7 or 8 different people who have never met me. I think one of them might have met me one time. The rest of these people, they've never met me. They've never seen none of the dogs we train. They've never been out. They've never trained with us. They've never shook my hand. They've never even seen me in person, really. These people assassinate my character. They say that I'm a dog abuser, that I only hurt dogs and I make dogs submit to me. No, I don't. Watch the videos. Go on YouTube and watch the videos. These are trained protection dogs, law enforcement dogs, things like that, right? We teach these dogs to not be afraid of anything, not gunfire, nothing. How am I going to physically make these dogs submit to me? We teach these dogs how to actually stop a criminal from doing something bad, right? And these criminals are going to be fighting the dog. How am I physically going to do anything with this dog? You think this dog is going to be afraid of me personally, but nobody else? That's not the way it works. Confidence is confidence. You cannot have a dog be afraid of you. You can have a dog respect you or whatever, but you cannot get a dog afraid of you and then expect the dog to have confidence in every other situation it's going to go into. So no, I do not abuse dogs. No, I do not mistreat dogs. You will never find a client who sent their dog with me personally. Now, my staff, each trainer works their own dogs. Legally, I make sure that my staff are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I cannot oversee my staff 24/7. If I could, there would be no. If I had to do that, there'd be no point in having other trainers that are working with me. The whole point is so we can all do work and have more time to do more work. So yes, we had a trainer make some very bad decision making skills, and that's to say the least. What they're saying he did and what he... All right. Sorry, a call is coming in. What they're saying he did and what really went on, I truly don't know because I wasn't there. I no longer lived at that residence. Moved out of that residence, I don't know, a month and a half before or something like that. But what they're saying he did, I doubt that he actually did the things that they're saying he did. But again, I don't know. He had more dogs than he was supposed to. What's being left out is that there was 13 dogs. Why don't they name all 13 dogs? And I'll tell you why, because it would blow a hole in everything they're trying to say about me. He had some of my ex-girlfriend's dogs there. Me and my ex-girlfriend, we split up. It's a very long story, but what transpired in that situation was very bad. And there was no way that she took her dogs with her or she had a friend or something. Those dogs were not at that house when I lived at that house. The dogs that were supposed to be at that house was Finley, a golden retriever that I actually personally started working with. Then there was an intern, and then the intern was wasn't there no more, and Devin took over the training. Finley and Gunner, a Doberman. That was another client who his dog was being trained by Devin. As far as progress goes, every day, maybe not every day, but at least multiple times a week, I'm checking on progress of dogs. I'm asking the trainers, how are the dogs doing? How are they doing in training? I'm seeing what their advancement is, things like that. Clients are always allowed to come and visit the dog. They're allowed to take the dog home on weekends if they want to. There's all kinds of stuff that clients can do. So those two dogs are supposed to be there. Well, there's a third one. It's a Mastiff. The Mastiff was supposed to be trained by a different trainer. That trainer ended up being fired, let go by us for some major reasons. Then the dog was reassigned to a different trainer. Well, that different trainer ended up working out a side deal with Devin. He gave the dog Devin, I guess he gave Devin some money or something like that. This was never authorized by me. That dog was not supposed to be with Devin. I had no idea that dog was even with Devin. So we fast forward and animal control goes over to Devin's or whatever. And they find 13 dogs. So even at a minimum, let's say I did not know about the Mastiff, but let's say the Mastiff was supposed to be there. The Mastiff, Finley, and Gunner, the Doberman. And then Devin's dog, Spike, I believe. Spike was his name, a Malinois. So that's 4. These other 9 dogs, I didn't have those dogs there. I didn't know those dogs were there. It wasn't okayed by me. One of the dogs that was there is a Rottweiler named Cookie. We had no contract on this dog. I ended up, after everything happened with the Devin situation, the lady called me. I went out there. She had paid Devin. They made a side deal or whatever with Devin. Devin charged him a nominal fee or whatever, but less than what we would charge. Well, come to find out, this is what Devin was doing. There's many clients who have came forward after Devin was let go and told me how Devin was trying to make side deals with them. That he would try to charge them extra for different things, but say, oh, if you do it with NorCal Canine or whatever, it's going to cost more, but if you do it with just me, I'll only charge you this much. This is why there was 13 dogs there. That house was not a facility. There was a training field on the property. The property is a very big property. There was a training field in the back. That is where we did our training at. That house dogs were not sent to that house unless they were assigned to Devin. There was not 13 dogs assigned to Devin. Each trainer is only allowed at a max 2 board and trains at a time. Typically only 1, but maybe 2. With that said, we did not have 13 dogs there. I had nothing to do with there being 13 dogs there. I'm touching on other subjects. I'm getting totally off track of what video number 1 was supposed to be. Back to video number 1. People make up accusations. They have theories in their head. They say whatever they want to say. And it's not the truth. Anybody can go on the internet. They can say anything they want about you at any time. And it's their word against yours. But then we get the media involved, right? So the media starts writing stuff. I mean, it doesn't matter politically how you stand. We know what media bias is. We've seen it time and time again in law enforcement cases. We've seen it time and time again where they jump on bandwagons to get clicks, to get views. That's what media is all about. So the media goes to assassinate my character, right? Because all these other people are, and there's a whole bandwagon of people now who don't know me, who have never trained with me, who are saying horrible things about me or my other staff or my company that are 100% not true. Or very minor truths to it. So the media jumps in, right? So the same newspapers that have written articles about my company and how great my company is and how great what we do, how great it is, right? They did interviews with clients, did all kinds of stuff. These same newspapers now jump on the opposite bandwagon. Everything today is nothing but speculation. It's finger pointing. It's character assassination. I had no knowledge of what was going on over at that house. That was Devin's house. That was not my house. I no longer lived in that house. There was not 13 dogs in there when I moved out of that house. At a max, there should have been 4. But again, they say, oh, Gary put all the dogs there or whatever. No, I didn't. Nobody in their right mind. I've had girlfriends that I've broken up with who were into rescue. And I would tell them like they're overextending themselves. You can't possibly take care of more than 3 or 4 dogs at a time. Not good. You can't give them a beneficial life. So like I would tell them like if you want to do rescue, but you can't have 9 dogs. You can't have 8 dogs, 7 dogs, 10 dogs, 13 dogs. Absolutely not. This is something that I'm 100% against. At a max, I'll have 3. At one point in my time, I did have 4 dogs, right? But at a max, I'll have 3. I'm trying to think. I'm getting totally off subject here. Apologize. These people, they assassinate my character. They because of the way I look or because they have opinions about me, but they don't even know me.